So, good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to start with a small story which I found on the net. It's a pool buyer's experience which is converted into, a little bit of sales talk. So, it's something what he learned as how a pool should be sold. So, I thought it'd be interesting for you to understand that. This guy's name is Bob. Okay. So, I'm going to talk like I've written the article. About a month ago, my wife said to me, Bob, I think we should have a swimming pool. Having been happily married to this woman for over 41 years, I could read between the lines to see what she was really saying. It would be something like this: Bob, I want a swimming pool. I want it now. A swimming pool will make me very happy, and you know, when I'm very happy, you're very happy. I quickly learned most of the companies selling swimming pools in our area do not product train their reps. I telephoned 11 different pool companies. I found only 5 companies had enough faith in that they knew their products and had good customer service to allow them in my home. So that was the short list that I made. Lesson number 1: make sure the person the customer talks to on the telephone is a good representative for your business. The first pool salesperson came with one pamphlet and a measuring tape. I told him where I wanted the pool and approximately the size I wanted. He measured and figured, and he told me the price, $57,000. I said, for what? He said, the pool and the spa. I said, what spa? He said, everyone gets a spa when they put in a ground pool. I did not want a spa. He assumed it was one of my wants, needs, and problems. And that went on with each salesperson. I think every one of them except one, which must be Timaya probably, assumed they knew what I wanted and what my problem, need, want was. Because they told me what I needed, well, it was actually what they wanted to sell. I tried over and over again to explain to them that although I did have a need that a pool would solve, the actual person they needed to satisfy with different features they offered was not me, it was my wife. Only one of the salespeople, the one who got the sale, figured out and solved my problem. My problem I needed solved was to make my wife happy. Lesson number 2: never assume you know what the customer's problems are. As I said, only one salesperson solved my problem. He, unlike the others, listened to me when I told him constantly that my wife wants this and my wife wants that. He wrote every one of them down and he showed me how he would solve them for her, which of course solved my problem, my need and my want. Lesson number 3: listen to the customer. While he was showing me how he could solve my wife's needs and wants, he gave me choices of solutions to pick from. Lesson number 4: give the customer choices of solutions to pick from. When you give the customer a choice of products and services, they no longer buy from the competition. It becomes clearly that the choice is you. My swimming pool salesperson did not stop selling to me after he left that evening. The next day, he telephoned me to see if I had any questions. 2 days later, I received a thank you note. And 2 days afterwards, I received an email of tips on how to maintain a good in-ground pool. Lesson number 5: follow up, follow up, follow up. The evening we signed the contract for construction, I again heard the magic words from my salesperson: who else do you know? Thank you. So I'm going to talk about why did I pick the topic target account selling. The reason being that when we are going to sell to a UHNI or an HNI or an institutional buyer, the customer is already known. It's how to sell into that account. So I thought it would be pretty useful to talk about it. And the constant dilemma, the challenge that you'll face as you engage with a customer would be, on one hand, you need to balance the cost, volume, and profit for the company. On the other hand, we need to balance what the customer wants, the value proposition that the customer is looking for from us. So that's the basis for this little presentation. Can you just, next slide, please? Yeah, just skip this. Let me start with the value delivery system. Can I come a little forward? I need to go there.
Doesn't matter because see that.
Thank you. As you get into the field, you might get sources, different kinds of sources. For instance, We might get a direct referral, a trade opportunity when you're visiting an exhibition. You might get a partner referral. You may have other kinds of network partners. You may get referrals from fellow professionals, or you may get a customer referral, another customer referring to you, right? So these are all different kinds of market channels we will have to build, what we call as the market structure. That means a customer can access us through many different sources. Now, why I call this a named account? Because the name of the customer is known, right? And typically, named account selling, the decision influencers can be many. For instance, if I go to an institution, there might be a purchase committee sitting there. Okay? If I go to a high net worth individual, the guy's architect or maybe his advisor, his mentor would be there. Maybe the guy has a professional circle. If everybody has got a certain type of pool, he'd also like to buy a similar type of pool. So there can be many different influencers. Or if he's buying it for his company, he may have a board of directors to go to, right? So as we get into the sale process, it'll be good for us to understand that. The opportunity potential can also be different. When I look at one customer, it means multiple sales opportunities. One could be, it might be a general opportunity, that is, it's a one-time sale. Or it could be a group opportunity. There may be a group of buyers wanting to buy. It may be the builder facilitating, or it may be individual group of buyers. It may be trend setting. Somebody's done a fantastic pool, or we've done a fantastic pool and they want similar ones. Maybe a catch up, just because keeping up with the Jonases. So if my neighbor has got a great pool, I need one. It may be a pilot opportunity, never done that before. I want a natural pool, but I want it in the heart of a city. I want, so these could be kind of opportunities and so on. So when you look at the opportunity potential, there could be opportunities well beyond the immediate one that you're talking about. Yeah, can you just move on? Now what happens in a named account is that it's all about relationship, right? So there are two clear stages you'll see. One is called the pre-sales, where I'm still getting to know the person. I haven't established that bridge of trust. So a lot of my effort goes in reaching out to his circle of influence, then maybe understanding that guy's need, how the guy buys. Some people like to buy through their architects. Some people are more comfortable involving their families, and some people want their facilities head to go and buy, and so on and so forth. So I'll have to do a lot of research, and somehow I get into a trusted point of reference into the customer account. The relationship begins when I actually start engaging in the sales process. That means when I'm called to really give a presentation. That's where I call it a qualified lead or an opportunity, right? And then that experience has to be maintained right through, right until the support cycle. One of the reasons, for instance, there are a lot of things we are changing as we speak. Okay, so some of what I'm going to show you is still happening. For instance, we're talking about introducing branded customer service. The reason we'll have a van, or maybe people who are well dressed and they're well trained to go and talk to customers is because we want the continuity of service experience. Okay, so one of the things we'll have to focus is on maintaining a certain level of relationship across the life cycle. Yeah, can you